enough of. I am enough. Whoa, whoa. I am enough. Yes, I am enough. Oh, I am enough. Yes. And guess what? You are enough of. You are enough. Oh, 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 oh. You are enough. Yeah, yes. You are enough. Oh, oh, you are enough. Good morning, everybody. Today is September the 29th, and it is a beautiful Saturday morning. And I wanted you to know first thing, just in case no one has told you, you are enough. You are absolutely, unequivocally, undeniably enough. You've been given enough. You are enough to accomplish what you were put on this earth to accomplish and to be who you were put on this earth to be. And just in case no one has told you, I've made it my mission to let you know that you are enough. 4 weeks ago, we began 5 weeks together of deconstructing your lids, your limiting beliefs, your ideologies. You know, those ideologies we got from people around us. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for listening. Oh, fantastic. Oh, okay. I was about to lose my place because I was so excited. I saw my girl, Michelle, first thing this morning. So, okay. I'm excited. But anyway, let me go back. 4 weeks ago, we began a 5-week journey together of deconstructing the lids, with the L standing for limiting beliefs, the I standing for ideologies. You know, those things we got from the people around us, those ideas. D standing for the disconnects. It's that discongruity between what we say we want and what we accept. And S stands for the stories we've made up around our past breakups. Indeed, you are enough, sweetheart. Yes, you are. You are enough. So now, over the course of our 4 weeks together, we've talked honestly and earnestly about a guilt-free breakup. We started out talking about where guilt really comes from and why it really, honestly, doesn't serve a real purpose. That second week, or part 2, we talked about the mature alternative to guilt. Because for some of us, guilt is all we've ever known. That's the way we've gotten kind of bullied into doing things, because we've gotten guilted into it. And part 3, we talked about the importance of stepping back and getting clear before rushing in. Well, today we're going to focus our attention on accepting the truth. Emphasis on accepting. Before we begin, I always like to add this disclaimer, because I really believe in being upfront and being transparent. I'm going to give you what I have to give you, my experience and the insights I've gained over these 50 plus years while I've been on my I Am Enough transformational journey. Now, some things are going to resonate with you down deep. Others will not. So I will tell you up front to do as my dad used to tell us when we were learning to eat fish. You know, back in the day when fish had bones in them, and you had to learn to eat the meat without swallowing the bones. Well, I'm telling you, eat the meat and spit out the bones that don't suit you. But let me caution you though, before you spit them out, chew on it for a little while. You might just find out it wasn't bones at all, just some tough meat you needed to make a little extra effort to chew through. Immediately following our time together, around 10:30ish maybe, might be a little earlier than that, we will move from this live broadcast to a more intimate setting, our Q&A session. The link to join us in that is in the description. Because, I decided to do that because there are some questions that are sensitive and they're just not for public consumption. So I wanted to provide a space of support, a space where you could really, let your hair down and really ask some questions without feeling like, somebody's going to make you feel bad or that you'll be subjected to criticism or you'll lose your cool points, right? So I decided to do this series live, but with each series, have a quiet place, a Q&A session where folks can go if they want to ask me some questions, they want to kind of work through some things, so they can have a quiet space to do it while it's on their minds and at a time when it would be the most meaningful to them. If you don't already have the Zoom app on your phone, you might want to make sure you download that, or at least, to try putting in the web address in your browser, which is really simple. www.zoom.us will take you there. This way, you'll be ready to move with me as soon as this broadcast is over. Okay? And last, but certainly not least, if you haven't already done so, I would be absolutely thrilled, and I'm sure your friends would be too, that have ever gone through a breakup or struggling, to get their footing in between dating experiences. Share this broadcast on your page or in your group, okay? Because we really are helpers one to another. And I might have something to share that will provide them with a piece of an answer they've been trying to figure out, or give them some perspective through which they can see themselves more empowered. I welcome your comments. I love the comments, and I'll stop and acknowledge any comments and your questions, but just know that my answers to those questions will be more in depth during the private Q&A session. Well, that's it for the preliminaries. So let's dive in. And please be mindful. I'll stop a little bit to answer questions, but I also want to be mindful that some people are going to listen to the replay. And a lot of times when people listen to replays, they're like, oh my God, all this waiting, all this stuff, just get to it, right? So I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible so that when people listen to the replay, they can get the gist of what I'm saying and apply it to their lives, okay? So let's dive into today's topic, a guilt-free breakup, and even more specifically, accepting the truth for what it is, not what it quote unquote ought to be. The most compelling accepting the truth moment for me was a conversation I had with a guy I had fallen head over heels for, and whom I had convinced myself was the one. I had had other boyfriends and I liked them a whole lot. But this guy, Michelle, this guy, he was the one that was the convergence of everything I thought I wanted and needed. It wasn't play, boyfriend, girlfriend stuff anymore. It was, I want to marry him, have his last name, have babies with this guy, right? That was the real deal for me. It was so important to me that I asked God for a sign. You know, back in that day, we used to say putting out fleece. Well, I asked God for two things. God, I said to him, God, if he's the one, I want you to do two things for me. I want you to let his mom like me. And the second thing is I want you to let his sister like me. Right? Because I really knew these were two pivotal people. And that if they liked me, it had to be the real deal. Michelle, you said, been there? Hey, yes, indeed. Oh, my God. And so when by, being my real self, and I garnered their smiles and their hugs and their warmth, I just knew in every fiber of my being that he was the one. That he was the one, right? It was like a dream. A dream I had dreamt for so long that seemed like it was finally coming true. I had met my Mr. Right, my Prince Charming, my godly man, and our destiny was sure because God had sent me two undeniable signs. Now, imagine my heartbreak when I heard through the grapevine he was getting married. I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. I could not breathe. I would even say that even saying I was devastated would not have been a good description. I was completely blown away. And while I was sitting there just blinking and just shaking and I finally, got in contact with my girlfriends who of course came rushing to my aid. And they advised me, Suzette, call him. Call him. Maybe there's some misunderstanding. Maybe it's not true. Before you, freak out, call him. Now that was easy for them to say. But when somebody tells you something like that, and especially at that age it wasn't that simple. But they kept saying to me, you're not going to know unless you call him. And so, okay, I thought to myself, okay, let me get my nerves together. Let me get my nerves together because I don't want to seem upset or wrecked. I want to seem like I'm put together, reasonable, mature, all that kind of thing. So I steadied myself and I called him. My heart was beating out of my chest. Hi, Courtney. Yes to guilt-free, indeed, indeed. My heart was beating out of my chest. And so I called him. My hands had never shaken as much as they shook there because back then we had the dial-up kind of phones. We didn't have cell phones. It wasn't pushing a button. So every time I dialed a number, my hands were just shaking, but I was trying to steady myself. And my girlfriends were they're looking at me like, go ahead, you can do this. Go ahead, you can do this. And so I tried to steady my voice, but that shaking was in it anyway. And I told him that, hey, how you doing? I heard he was getting married, and he said, yes, I am. Y'all, I literally felt my eyebrows start sweating. I felt weak. I couldn't believe it. And all the things I thought, all the moments that were important to me just went flooding through my brain. And I'm going to tell you, after he said that, it felt like everything else he said sounded like he was underwater. The blood rushed to my head. My ears got clogged. I don't know what else he said. In that moment, I was just flushed. So I can't tell you what he said, except for when my mind cleared enough, I heard myself say to him, but you told me you loved me. And he said, no, I didn't. I never told you I loved you. Whew, woosah. I'm going to stop it right there and ask you this question. Just in listening to that much of the story, who do you think was telling the truth? Him or me? You can type it in the comments. Even if you're listening to the replay, you can type it in the comments, or you can simply think about it. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something that you might not expect me to say with respect to my experience. And two things are key. I ask you, who did you think was telling the truth? Him? Me saying you told me you love me? I'm sorry, me saying you told me you love me, or him saying, no, I didn't. I never told you I loved you. Unfortunately, it was him. Ooh, girl, let me tell you. And a lot of times, I think that's where we settle. Who was telling the truth? Who was right? Him or me? Who was honest? Him or me? You know, the two things I'm going to tell you that are key might surprise you. One, who knows? Who knows who was telling the truth? Because the truth is, my truth was my truth. And his truth was his truth. We often put ourselves in this situation by creating happiness in our minds. So true. So true. So true, Michelle. We get hung up on, was it him or was it me? We have this thing, this story we've created around an experience. And it's real to us. But the story he's created around the experience is real to him too. Hi, Shonda. Thanks for joining. It's real to us too. So in asking the question, who do you think was telling the truth? The only thing I can say is, who knows? And the second thing is, it doesn't matter. I know it might sound a little surprising. Because as I said, Shonda, hi. I said his truth was his truth and my truth was my truth. And more times than not, whenever we have a difference with someone, especially when it comes to conflict with the opposite sex, or difference of opinion, or difference in the way we've seen things, stand on our truth as if it is the only thing. We take how we see it, our experience of it, and our own rationalization, and we tell that person, no, this is the truth. No, this is what happened. As if their truth or their experience of it cannot be real. They're in denial. They're playing games. They're not being honest. But the real truth is that person believes their truth just as much as you believe yours. So we can argue and debate and argue and debate and argue our truth and argue what our experience was and argue until we get laryngitis. And it won't change that. Have you ever tried to argue or debate with somebody? Hi, Essence. What a beautiful name. Have you ever tried in a conversation with the opposite sex to get that person to hear you or to confront something? And no matter what compelling argument you give, they will not change their truth? Hi, Annie. I'm telling you. So who's right? Who's wrong? Who's telling the truth? Who knows? Second thing, it doesn't matter. Now, I'm not saying you don't matter. So I want you to listen to me, okay? Listen to me. Don't get all foggy like I did. It doesn't matter. In the context of us talking about a guilt-free breakup, whose truth, who's telling the truth, who's not, who's right, who's wrong, it doesn't matter. Defense of your truth isn't really what you are arguing about. It isn't. Let's think about it. It's the truth underneath the truth. It's the truth behind the argument. It's the soft underbelly that we're trying to defend. It isn't truth, our truth. That's not really what gets shook or what got shook. At least in my case, in my trying to be right and trying to make my case and tell him all the instances where he said he loved me and this and that and a third, and him saying, no, I never said that. I never meant it that way. That's not what I meant. That's what you heard, but that's not what I meant. I realized that I was fighting for my worthiness. The whole debate was really about, didn't I matter to you? That was the real question behind my vehement debate, behind my how could you do this after what we shared, behind all of that, the real question, what I was really seeking an answer to was, wasn't I enough for you? Wasn't I enough for you that you would be around me, that you would laugh with me, that you would kiss me the way you did, that you would introduce me to the people that you did, that you would talk to me, that you would make love to me, that you would be with me, and you would still choose someone else? I wasn't enough? And many times that's what we are really struggling to defend. It's a defense of our honor, our enoughness, our worth to the other person. And sadly, Because of their response, we make our worth, our honor, and our enoughness subject to him. We hold ourselves hostage to that question that for us never got answered. Now we say he ought to have done this. We tell our girlfriends or our guy friends he should have done this or that, or he ought to have done this or that, or he shouldn't have done this or that, or he shouldn't have said this or that as a defense, because we'd rather hold to that story than to confront the fact that our self-esteem was being called into question, not by him, but by us. Our enoughness was being called into question. It all got shook by our experience. And for many of us, we've never been the same since. Annie says, you have a slot of wisdom from God. Okay, I got you. You have a lot of wisdom from God. Thank you, Annie. That one experience was a defining one for me when it came to how I saw myself, when it came to love relationships. That was a defining moment for me. What was your defining moment? And you don't have to put it in the comments section because it might be too personal. And it might be one of the things like, girl, there's not enough space on Facebook for me to tell you all about it. I got it. But in your mind, or if you have a slip of paper nearby, what was that defining moment for you? That quintessential defining moment that put a question in your mind about who you are as a relator, who you are in proximity to relationships with men and your intimacy with men, and how you see yourself and how you see men. Hi, Joe. Thanks for joining. What was that defining moment for you that caused you to color the men in your life or the women in your life? What was that defining moment? That one where you got shook and you began to question if you were enough. And you tried to do things to get back to being enough, to prove that you were enough. You tried to put on some great armor so that you could protect yourself and all that. But underneath that soft underbelly, that question still has loomed in the background. And nothing brings that question more to bear than when you meet somebody that you really, really want to be the one. That's when all those things, all those skeletons start rattling, all those issues about your worthiness, your enoughness come to the forefront. That one experience for me put Liz on the top of my truest expression of me. I wasn't the same anymore. And while I would love to blame him for it, the real truth that I had to accept was it only amplified an emotional instability inside of me that he didn't put there, and a lack of vision about my own worth. But he didn't put it there. It only amplified it. We do it, don't we? When a relationship doesn't go right, you immediately assign blame or try to determine whose fault it is and who's telling the truth, who's right. We tell ourselves we just want to know the truth. But I'm going to go underneath the skin and go out on the limb and say, that simply isn't the truth. We want to know if we are enough. And we think that by getting closure, meaning that God tells us what we did that made him act like that made him leave us, that made him reject us, that made him cheat, lie, abuse, misuse, mislead, devalue, jeopardize our dream for that relationship. We think that by him telling us that with that information, we can improve things. We can improve ourselves. We can see our blind spots. We can work on ourselves. We can change something so it won't happen to us in the next one. Shonda says, I'm going to watch the replay of this. You are giving out some jewels. Thank you, Shonda. Annie says, oh, yes. And if not careful, you will bring it into your next relationship. Exactly. But think about it. Us waiting for somebody else to tell us these things before we can move on is absolutely ridiculous. Think about it. You're asking someone else who did not create you, someone else who, even though he might have had an experience of you, doesn't know you intimately, no matter how much you shared. And I've learned this, no matter how much you share of yourself with another person, so many times it's maybe at the most a lesser percentage of what you're actually sharing versus how they're hearing it. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Have you ever been talking to somebody and you think you have been very honest with that person? You've been authentic, you've been honest, you've told them, but yet they come away as if you haven't told them anything, and you're wondering, how in the world could you have been with me and not known that? I think it's because we all, men, women, we all hear through a filter. And so to ask that person or to give that person that much power to tell before you can give yourself closure is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. We're asking another person to give us a plausible reason why they left us. A plausible reason why they didn't treat us the way we wanted to be treated. A plausible reason. And deferring to what that person says as more credible than doing the work to find it out for ourselves. What I have learned is this. If he, and since we have a gentleman listening, or I'll say, or she is not the right person for you, they're simply not the right person for you. There is nothing you can do to change that, no matter how much you want it. Even if you altered everything according to that person's specifications, it still wouldn't work. You know why? Anyone you have to change who you are to be with is not the right person. So a guilt-free breakup dictates they did you a favor. It went down bad. It went down sour. But they did you a favor. Now, I feel like I need to clarify something here, though. When I talk about changing who you are to be with them, I'm talking about the truest essence of you. Not the defensive, hand on your hip you. You know, if I were talking about Charlie Brown and the Peanuts, not the Lucy. Not Lucy you, okay? I'm not talking about the you've had to be or had to assume to survive. I'm talking about the truest essence of your heart, your truest expression of your aliveness, your unique thumbprint in this world, your way of being in the world, your rhythm, your vibrancy, your music. Say you asked him why he left, and he said, "Girl, you just talk too much. You always got to have an opinion about everything." What gain would it be to you to stop talking? To abandon the truest expression of you in this world, to defer to what somebody else said, what somebody else wanted. For many of us, our ability to speak and share our feelings and our thoughts is our way of being in the world. It's our voice. It's our expression. And to be asked to stop that in order to have him or have her, let me tell you, it might work for a little while, but ultimately, especially if things don't work out, you'll resent it. Why? Because you gave up something about yourself you love just to be with him. That's why I said it doesn't matter. So today I'm hoping you'll give yourself closure and accept that truth. Because what is a turn off to the wrong man is a turn on to the right one. Khadijah, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you so much for listening. So why stop being yourself just because of one man or one woman's opinion? Okay, I hear you. Okay. What if you've opened yourself up and you get hurt every single time? Maybe since your divorce, that has been your experience. Maybe since you lost that one great love, that has been your experience. You've tried to open your heart. You've tried to give a man the benefit of the doubt, only to be disappointed time and time again. Well, I'm going to say this in absolute love. Y'all ready for it? The common denominator is you. You can change shoes, but you're the one that's wearing them. You may have a closet full of different shoes, but you're the one that's wearing them. And I've told this story often, so I'm going to give it to you in the abridged Cliff Note version. The truth that I had to accept about myself was I was a magnet for emotionally unavailable men. They were okay with my strength, but seemed turned off by my honesty when I told them how I felt. They loved my swag, my way. They loved that part of me that they thought was sexy. Right? But if I got honest about how I felt, they would either go silent, passive aggressive, or turn it back on me. as my problem. I couldn't leave well enough alone. I was too analytical. I was too emotional. I was making something a big deal out of nothing. You name it. Different men, different expressions, but the same underlying theme. They got really uncomfortable when I was forthcoming about what I wanted and needed to be okay in the relationship. The aha moment for me, however, was that really accepting the truth moment, that really bigger truth moment that God reserves the right to have when we least expect it. God told me that the reason I kept attracting emotionally unavailable men was because I myself was emotionally unavailable. I wasn't emotionally available for myself. I was uncomfortable with my feelings, and that's why I would try to hold it and hold it and hold it until I couldn't hold it anymore. Because I saw my feelings as weak, as whiny. So I tried to hide them until I couldn't hide them anymore. Because I was uncomfortable with my emotions. And because I attracted men who didn't respect my feelings. That was the truth that mattered. Asking any one of those men why they backed away, why they stopped talking, why they became distant, why they seemed distracted all the time, why things didn't work out with us. It didn't matter. My wise self, my God self, that divine thumbprint inside of me, revealed the real truth, the bigger truth, the truth personified, the truth that I was missing. That's what matters. You see, I could argue all day long that men ought to do closure. I could come up with all these things and have a man stand in front of me and guilt him for not answering the phone when I call, for not answering my question when I ask, for not having the balls to face me. I could say all those things that he ought to, quote, be a man and tell the truth. You know, that he should make time after all that I did for him. You know how we can build a real case. And he says, yeah, different man, but same character. Yes. We could build a real case on what they ought to do, who they ought to be, what they should have done, what they shouldn't have done, what was right, what was wrong, what was true, what was false. We can build a real case. And some of us have built such a convincing case that we can't fully show up. We are so afraid of getting hurt that when we come to the table, we don't come to the table as ourselves. Hi, is that Jamil? Hi, Jamil. Thanks for listening. I hope I didn't mess up your name. But we have built such a case. We have built such a case that we don't come to the table. We come as a counterfeit of ourselves. We come to the table as plainclothes detectives or plainclothes policemen or plainclothes, security guards. We're wearing plain clothes, but we are fully armed and fully loaded. They see us all. Hi, Edison. That's my homeboy. Thanks for listening. That man or that woman sees us all dolled up, all spit shined, all attractive and sexy and all appearances looking like we are just, everything they imagined meeting us would be. But little do they know that underneath that veneer, we're packing. We got the knife, underneath this and the pistol underneath that if they should step too far to the left, it comes down our arm and we're ready to pull it at a moment's notice. Now, y'all know I'm very colorful and very descriptive. And in my own colorful way, the intent of this audio is not to shame you or make you feel guilty. It's only to help you to focus on the bigger truth. Because no matter what you've told yourself about your breakup, if it's not powerful in the essence and the core of who you are, then there's a bigger truth that you must hear. There's a bigger truth yet to be discovered. If your beliefs about men and about women, about yourself in a romantic relationship is one of fear, is one of defensiveness, is one where your lids are intact, those limiting beliefs that you have, those ideologies, those disconnects, where there's no integrity in what you say you want and what you accept, and those stories that you tell yourself, then you're not really telling yourself the truth. There is a bigger truth. There's a bigger side. People always say there are 3 sides to a story. Some people have even said 4 sides. There's your side, there's his side, and another side. My belief is there's your side and there's his side. Then there's the truth. The truth doesn't have a side. The truth isn't struggling with whether you're enough or not, whether you're good enough or not, whether you're worthy enough or not. The truth doesn't care about all the time you devoted to the relationship and how could they do this to you. The truth doesn't care. The truth only reveals itself so that you can see your power to have and to be what you were put on this earth to have and to be. And either that person in your life aligns or they don't. And whether you find it out today or you found it out 3 months later or you found it out 10 years later, in the evolution of your becoming, the bigger truth is only concerned with you living out your life authentically. It's only concerned with you being who you were brought to this earth to be, and you doing what you were brought to this earth to do. It doesn't matter if your story is different and his story is different. If your story is one that is holding the truest you hostage, then it's the wrong story. It's not true. If your story is one where you have to be armed at all times lest you should be hurt again, then it's not true. Hi, Jenny. Always great to see you. That's the truth that you must accept. Any truth that you hold that's a belittling of the truth of who you are, any truth that you hold that is a mask, that is a defense when there's no defense needed. It's not true. If your busyness is to prove something, to prove that you're enough, to prove that you're smart, to prove that you got it going on, to prove that you should be taken seriously. If your busyness, if what you're doing in the world, if the way you're showing up in the world is to prove something, then you're not operating under truth. I said it previously. I said it in one of my previous sessions when I was talking about a guilt-free breakup. I was talking about how in the story of the fall of man, that the issue wasn't that Adam and Eve ate the fruit. The issue was that they ate the lie. They ate the lie. They ate the lie that they were not enough. They ate the lie that they were lacking. They ate the lie. Because if they hadn't eaten the lie, there would have been no reason to eat the fruit. So that's why I say, anything, any truth you're operating under that is not from a place of knowing you are enough. It's not from if it's operating from a place of you trying to compensate for that soft underbelly. You're trying to compensate for that small question of, am I enough? Am I worthy enough for someone to love me? Then you're not really bringing the truth of who you are to the table. It's not what you do or don't do that makes you enough. That's why him telling you what you did is ridiculous. It isn't what he says or what she says to the men that are listening that have gone through breakups. You are enough because you exist. You are enough because whether you believe in God or you don't, whether you believe in the Big Bang Theory or not, some higher consciousness conspired to get you here. Hi, Gina Darrow. So glad to see you. You are enough because something bigger conspired to get you here. Doesn't matter whether your daddy loved your mother or not. Doesn't matter how you got here. Doesn't matter how that egg and sperm came together. It doesn't matter. The fact is, something greater than you decided that despite all the environmental consequential things that happened, you survived 9 months inside someone else and lived. You have to know that your being in this world is not an accident. And it's not for your romantic partner to decide whether you're enough to be loved or not. Love is what brought you here. A love bigger than your mom or your dad's. Whether the planets collided or the Big Bang happened or the molecules, love, something bigger decided. And I believe it was God. A higher consciousness, a divine will, made the decision that you were necessary. Venus, that you were necessary. You're bigger than the last person you slept with. You're bigger than the last person who broke your heart. Hearts can be mended. As long as you exist, there is the ability and capacity in you to heal your heart. You don't need a person for that. You've been given the resources, both internally and externally, to heal your heart. You are a necessary part of this ecosystem. You are critical to things moving and flowing in the way they should. You are somebody's air. You are somebody's connection. You matter. You truly do. And to make your enoughness, your worth contingent upon somebody else's view of you is a disservice to your value. Underneath your ego is a wise woman waiting to tell you her truth. You see, she came into this world programmed with the key to her enoughness. He came into this world programmed. It's in your spiritual DNA. You came into this world with everything you need to be a contributor to this world. So many of us run after love based on the belief that we don't have it. We have to find love, or love has to find us. We've eaten the lie that we have to find love, that if we don't have the arms of a man around us or the arms of a woman around us, that we don't know what it's like to be loved, that we haven't found love, that we aren't enough unless that happens. What's wrong with me? Why can other people have love and I don't have it? That's only an experience of love. But love is so much bigger than that. Do you not know that was me so many years ago? I just wanted someone to love me. That's what I told myself. When the truth was, I wanted someone to validate my lovability. I wanted someone to validate my worthiness to be loved. Things only shifted after dating and unavailable men and marriage fails and all this. Nothing shifted until, instead of me looking for someone else to approve of me, I accepted me to the point I refused to bring a phony to the table. I refused to have my time wasted. Didn't matter how cute he was. It didn't matter how much my heart fluttered and knots got in my stomach. Didn't matter how much I wanted to jump him or wanted him to jump me. Something inside of me stood bigger than my lust for validation or my lust for pleasure. I refused to ignore the handwriting on the wall. I refused to lie to myself anymore. I refuse to come to the table without it fully being me. Sure, I wanted a different love experience with a man. But this time, I wasn't going to bend and contort and act like somebody else or what I thought he wanted or what I had been told a man wants. This time, using the words of Lisa Nichols, I was going to play full out. No more pussyfooting around, no more hedging, no more bobbing and weaving, no more recalibrating. I was going to play full out, showing up to love full out as me. No apologies, no excuses. And my hope and prayer is that I've said something today and in these sessions that will help you to remove the guilt of leaving somebody else, or the guilt of being left, so you can stop getting all hung up on whether you were wrong, whether he was wrong, who did what to whom, what he should have done, what you should have done, how things ought to be, how men ought to be, how women ought to be. At the end of the day, all that is simply a cheap excuse, an evasive maneuver. Nothing more than denial of and resistance to your own power to have the life and the love you desire. Dorothy, you already wearing the ruby red slippers, honey child. Let me tell you. All this while, you going all up and down the yellow brick road trying to find the wizard, trying to find your way back home. It's already in you. You already have it. But the you that doesn't know it is the you that's eating a lie. The lie that says you're lacking something. The lie that says you're not enough. The lie that says you're wrong or he's wrong. So, accepting the truth for what it is, not what it ought to be. The truth is, you are God's great love. Carletta, thank you for joining me. You are God's great love. You are love. You are love. You might want to have a broader experience of it, but don't get it twisted. You are the real you, the divine you. You are love. So it's a lie, am I lovable? The truest you? Yes. This egoic representation? That's not the real you. The real you that you're afraid of. That might be a good place to start. The real you that you're afraid of. The real you that you're afraid of. Is it possible that the truth lies with that part of you? Not this tough veneer, not this suit of armor, not this appearance, not this compensating, trying to become what you already are. Next week will be the final part of this series. I'll be bringing it home with 3 things that must happen in order for you to move from guilt to guilt-free. In order for you to move on. In order for you to give yourself closure. In order for you to stop pointing back to when your heart was broken, that defining moment that you haven't been able to get over ever since. All that we've talked about over these 4 sessions has led us to this. So don't miss it. I hope you'll tune in next Saturday. And if you'd like to dive more deeply into today's session, or something I've said has awakened something inside of you, that you're feeling that inner you, that inner knowing, that divine you, that is being riled, is being shaken a little bit, and you want to follow it. You don't want to ignore it. You don't want to go back to business as usual. Something I've said has resonated with something deeper in you, and you want to explore it more deeply. Or maybe you're wrestling with something and you have a question that you'd like to talk about more in private. Then join me for my private Q&A session right after this. The meeting ID is in the description, the browser address. For some of you, you might want to listen to the replay first, no problem. If not, be prepared for it next Saturday. And if none of that applies, then I'll see you next Saturday. Until then, you don't need everybody, just the right somebody. Later, y'all. And keep those comments coming, because after I get off of here, I'm going to read your comments and I'm going to reply. But I hope I'll see you all next week at 9:30. I was more on time this time. Facebook loved me today. So thanks to every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me today. And just please know, my job is not to try to make you be anything else. My job is just to provide a safe place so that you can discover just how powerful and how lovable and how enough you really are. Love you. Bye-bye.